Ottawa says it is working to mitigate the impact of U.S. tariffs on companies in sectors like automaking. But a report from Japan has many worried. The business news outlet Nikkei says Honda is indefinitely postponing plans to build an EV plant in Canada.
They're a great partner in the auto sector. The word they used was hold. And I know my colleague, Minister Joly, is in touch with them. And like I said, Canada is not immune to what you see around the world. You've seen a number of these projects being delayed to deal with market situation. I think it's more a reflection about where the electric vehicle market is today.
Honda announced the project in 2024 and would have included a vehicle assembly plant and battery production facilities. It was set to receive upwards of $5 billion in federal and provincial funding. Asked to confirm the news, Honda Canada said in a statement that it had nothing to report at this time. Industry associations say the auto plant would represent tens of thousands of jobs. So what does this mean for the Canadian auto industry as a whole? I want to turn now to David Kennedy for some analysis. He's the Toronto Bureau Chief for Automotive News Canada. David, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So you say that this is not unexpected. So you saw it coming. And why is that?
Yeah, well, I would say it's not wholly a surprise. We saw this project got put on hold last year, and they were going to reassess it in 2027. That now appears to, be pushed out indefinitely. Cancellation would be a surprise. I'd be surprised to see Honda not move forward in some capacity with something in Ontario when it comes to EVs. But it is the reality right now that electric vehicles are struggling in North America. And with tariffs piled on top of that, it makes spending $15 billion on an electric vehicle battery supply chain in Ontario a pretty tough sell.
Why are EVs sluggish? U.S. demand for EVs in the U.S. being cited by Japanese media outlets, that it's just, I guess there's not a desire the way there once was.
Yeah, it's an appetite situation, really, when it comes to consumers. They're not sold on EVs yet, particularly in the U.S. There was, an EV incentive in the U.S. that went away recently. We've got ours back in Canada, so we're going to start to see EV sales tick back up in Canada. But the reality is the Canadian market is quite tied to the U.S. market when it comes to automotive. So the vehicles that we produce, about 90% of them are exported to the U.S. So if you can't export the vehicles, you can't. It's very difficult to make a viable business case to be building them here and to be building batteries in very large quantities, which Honda was expected to do. Is just difficult to justify when it comes to spending this amount of money right now. As I said, I wouldn't write it off long term. We'll have to wait to see what the company comes out and says, because long term, they're going to have to build EVs. That is the way the market is going long term. But right now, particularly in North America, it's going through some growing pains.
Yeah, I sort of was thinking in my head, the gas prices are so high that you would think that maybe that would translate. But, it clearly is not at this point. And you talked about the challenge of potentially exporting to the United States, and that brings a whole other set of questions that are very challenging. He didn't specifically speak about Honda, but Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed the report, saying that he will, quote, continue to do what's necessary, including getting the right deal that's in Canada's interest. What did you think of that response?
I think it's consistent with what Canada has said for the last while. And the auto industry has told the Canadian government, told the Ontario government that it needs to get these tariffs solved. There's just no question about it. Automotive in Canada is very linked to the United States, and it's very difficult to decouple as much as, you would like to see a little bit more Canadian production for Canada. It's just very difficult to do. And the U.S. car market is just 10 times the size of ours. So it becomes very challenging to make a case for that. At the same time, there are some signs that we might get through this. We're not quite to July yet when we're going to see those CUSMA renegotiations come to the fore and see where we go with it. But at the same time, I do think that there are some positive signs that Canada has some cards to play in these negotiations to potentially get these tariffs off the table and get the auto sector back building fully.
we talk about the possibility that this report is correct, indefinitely postponing this EV plant on the part of Honda, what we're seeing here is that this could possibly represent tens of thousands of jobs. Is that your read on it? And to that, I mean, I assume that that's very significant, but you tell me, how many percentage-wise of auto workers are we talking about?
Sure. I mean, tens of thousands it would be talking about the entire supply chain that would go into supporting all of these plants. Honda today in Alliston builds the CR-V and the Civic. They employ about 4,200 people at their complex in Alliston, and many, many more in dealership networks and things like that. But, it's about 4,000 employees now. What they said officially was that they would add 1,000 as part of this expansion. I think the reality is that probably would have been higher had they gone fully through with their plans. The ripple effect down through the wider supply chain when it comes to battery materials, for instance, would be huge. Thousands of jobs would be accurate. Tens of thousands, it's difficult to say exactly how many spin-off jobs this would have created, but there would have been a lot. But at the same time, Honda hasn't changed course so far in production in Ontario right now. Those 4,200 employees that work in Alliston are still going to work. They're still building vehicles. And Honda, among a couple other Ontario automakers, Toyota most notably, has made no real change to their production in the country so far. That's a positive sign that both Honda and Toyota are, happy with their Canadian footprint. They intend to stay here. They just need a solution when it comes to the U.S. tariffs.
Yeah. And as you point out, we don't have a response from Honda. We have one news report here. It's alarming to a lot in the industry, but we are waiting to hear, what exactly Honda is going to say about it. David Kennedy is the Toronto Bureau Chief for Automotive News Canada. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.